America never stops. Thanks to the financial support of Farm Credit, neither do the farmers and ranchers who call her home. And as rural America grows further, we'll be there, just as we have for 100 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby Crawford. I'm here with Central Florida Ag News. We are here at the Polk County Farm Bureau Legislative Wrap-Up Luncheon, where a panel of state officials were able to provide updated information for our local farmers and ranchers on legislative issues that were passed during this session. With us today, we have Representative Ben Albritton, Senator Kelli Stargel, and Senator Denise Grimsley. Thank you all for joining us today. So, Representative Albritton, we'll start off with you. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about the 3 recommendations you focused on for the agriculture tax relief to consider continued support for our hurricane relief and recovery?
Sure. That's a great question. There were lots of things that were in the tax bill that were going to be helpful for storm recovery, even in agriculture. But there are 3 that I think are specifically important to the supply chain of agriculture. The first would be the tangible personal property tax that is on the equipment inside of packing or processing facilities that have been idled or shut down because of greening or because of Irma. So what they're going to be able to do is ask the state, and there's money set aside for it, ask the state for a refund of those taxes. And instead of that equipment being taxed at full value, that's a significant cost, they will now be taxed at salvage value. They'll get the difference back. So that's going to be a huge deal. The second would be on our fencing for many of our cattle ranchers and dairy folks. They had some significant damage from trees falling. Didn't take much driving around after the storm to see a lot of that damage. So they're going to be able to get sales tax replenished back to them through a rebate program with the Department of Revenue, just like the first issue, based on those hurricane recovery efforts. The third, which is actually very exciting, is something that's very new for the legislature to tackle, was to give back and rebate a significant portion of the on-road diesel fuel taxes. Sure, and that's something brand new that we have just come up with this year, and that's going to be able to be rebated to them for transportation of crops from the field to the first point of processing, which would be a processing plant or a packing house, and that's going to really help our pick and haulers in their storm recovery efforts. So those were the 3 that I think have the most meaningful impact.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much for your efforts, and I know a lot of people that were excited about that, so thank you so much. And now moving on to Senator Stargel, who you sponsored Senate Bill 740, and it was recently signed by Governor Rick Scott on the 23rd. Congratulations. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how the update to the Greenbelt law is going to be able to better assist our citrus growers in the area?
Sure, there was a lot of things. I think this group here, the 3 of us, have worked on little pieces of all of this. I worked on some of the pieces of the tax package, and Senator Grimsley worked on a little bit of the policy, all of us together. But specifically to Greenbelt, what we did is if your land, for some reason, you're not actively using it for active agriculture, something's happened, maybe it was the hurricane in your groves or the cattle, we're going to allow you to maintain your Greenbelt exemption for the 5 years until you have a chance to work it out without any confusion that it's could it go away because it's not in that active use. We make sure to give those farmers the opportunity to come back, to rebuild, and not have an incentive to leave the industry. What's important to me is that we keep agriculture, we keep it local, we keep it here in the state of Florida. And we're doing everything we can, and I think as you've seen across these policies that we've all worked on, it's a priority for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And I know a lot of citrus growers that were ecstatic about that because they were worried. They had, fruit all over the ground. They're like, what are we going to do? So they are very much appreciative of it. So thank you. And now, last but not least, Ms. Grimsley, Senator Grimsley, can you talk to us about some of the ag laws, ag bills that you sponsored this session? Talk to us.
I'll be glad to.
Awesome.
The first thing that I talked about today was the Young Farmer and Ranchers Act. And what the bill was designed to do was to set up a matching grant program for young farmers and ranchers between 18 and 35 in order to get started in agriculture. Because, if you inherit land or you inherit a farm, it's fairly easy to get into agriculture. But if you don't, and there's so many FFA kids and 4-H kids out there that are they so want to get into agriculture, but they don't have the resources. So that was what it was designed to do. Now, in the duration of the legislative session, we lost the funding for that, but we left the infrastructure in place. And what it does do now is it sets up a 12-member council within the Department of Agriculture that the commissioner will appoint, and those individuals will advise the commissioner on what we need to do to encourage young people to get into agriculture. And then it also sets up a clearinghouse, if you will, on their website, the Department of Agriculture, that will list matching or different grants and scholarships and other things that are available for that age group. And then I'm hopeful that as the legislature comes back into session next year, that matching grant program will be added back. The second bill I did dealt with theft, and it was specifically for beehives and cattle, which we've seen the thefts of those two industries rise in the last few years. And currently, in current law, it's a third-degree felony, a $5,000 fine. But if you do the same thing, if there's theft in aquaculture, it's a $10,000 fine. So we just leveled the playing field and said, so bees and cattle will also have the same amount of fine as is aquaculture, which is $10,000. The third piece of legislation dealt with cracker cattle, made the cracker cow the official cattle of the state of Florida. That's very important to a lot of people.
Ma'am, it sure is.
I didn't realize how important until I filed the bill. It's very important.
Yes, ma'am. And as a senior in college studying agriculture, I am so appreciative of the efforts that all of you have made, and especially for the young farmers and ranchers. I did not grow up in agriculture, so I'm not inheriting anything. But being able to start, I mean, it's a huge financial bill for us to get. And it's like I was trying to go over my finances, and I'm like, holy guacamole, like I'm fresh out of college, how am I going to do this? So hopefully with those grants being accessible for us, that's going to be a huge weight off of our shoulders to assist us. So thank you guys so much for your time and your dedication to the agriculture industry. I am appreciative of it, and everyone here at the luncheon today is especially appreciative. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you all for joining today. I hope you enjoyed the responses that you heard. If you would like any more information, make sure to follow Polk County Farm Bureau and Central Florida Ag News for any updated information.